In this lesson, we have the following network architecture. We have a Nexus 7009 with two VDCs, one that's called DC1 Core and the other one that's called DC1 OTV. We're going to connect to the 7009 VDC called DC1 Core and take a look at how we turn on features and take a look at what features are enabled on a device. For feature configuration, we're going to go through the feature configuration procedure. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change to a mode called Configure Terminal. This is where we go to make changes to the device. We're also going to take a look at the Show Feature command, and that's how we can see which features are enabled and which ones aren't. We're then going to enable a feature called LACP that we've talked about in previous lessons. And then we're going to take a look at the feature command again to see what is different after we have enabled that feature. So in front of us, I've already started up my terminal emulation program called Secure CRT. I'm connected to the DC1 Core VDC, and right now I'm just sitting at a generic prompt. As I mentioned before, the first thing we need to do in order to make changes to the switch is to type configure terminal. We're now in the configuration mode where we can make changes to the device. If I go into an interface, for instance, interface E/46, and try to configure LACP by creating an ether channel, you're going to see this error because if you have not enabled the feature for LACP, then LACP cannot be configured. Matter of fact, there aren't any processes running for LACP as it states in this message. So if I want to see what features that I have enabled, I would do the Show Feature command. Here I can see all the features in this VDC that are enabled or disabled. Now that was a big long list. If I want to shorten that list, I would type Show Feature pipe including LACP. Now once I type that, I can see just the LACP feature, and I can also see that that feature is disabled. So if I want to use LACP, I have to enable that feature. I can do so by just simply typing in feature and then the feature that I'd like to enable. In this case, maybe I don't know what that feature is. I might just press question mark, and that'll give me a list of all the features that I can enable or disable with the feature command. I can even say I want to know all the features that start with the letter V and type in a V and a question mark, and it'll try to tell me all the features that you can enable with a V. In this case, I want to enable feature LACP, so I'm just going to type LACP and press enter. Now you can see with the show command, if I do show feature pipe include LACP, I can now see that the LACP feature is enabled. I can also see if I do a show run that the features are listed right at the top of my running config, and I can see that feature LACP is enabled. It's also important to note that we just showed the running config, which is the configuration that's in memory, but it's not the startup config, which is the configuration that as the device boots up gets pulled from non-volatile RAM and boots up from that configuration. So if I do a show startup config, I'm not going to see that new feature in my startup configuration. So it's very important to do a copy, run, start, or copy my running config to my startup config so that I can make sure that I save my changes, and the next time that this VDC starts up, I will have that LACP feature. And now if I show my startup config, I will see that my LACP feature is included. Please join me for the next lesson, Configuring VDCs.